Hi, my name is Anirban. In this session, I would demonstrate how to configure and run tests for BGP FlowSpec for both IPv4 FlowSpec and IPv6 FlowSpec. This is the use case that I'm going to demonstrate. In this use case, a provider edge P router is connected to a customer edge C router. The C router has detected malicious traffic in its network. The C router then sends BGP FlowSpec rules to the P router requesting it to block the traffic. So in this demo, XCR test ports are connected back to back. XCR test port 1 emulates the P router and another XCR test port 2 emulates the C router. In C router, we would have BGP FlowSpec rule configured to deny the traffic coming from the attacker IP addressed to the server IP address with TCP UDP port number lying in the range of 2000 to 3000. So during this demo, we'll also show how to see the learned FlowSpec entries in the P router and also to use the packet analyzer to inspect FlowSpec and analyze. We'll also see how to configure traffic matching the fields, and we'll also look at how to configure the multiple FlowSpec rules and using patterns there. At the end, we'll briefly look at how to configure the IPv6 FlowSpec. So with this, let me now go to the IxNetwork application. I am running it in a remote desktop. Let me start from a blank configuration. This will take a few seconds. So I am adding a new topology. I'm going to the protocol wizard. I'm adding a chassis here. So from the chassis, let me take a port. And I need to I need to add a BGP protocol here for BGP FlowSpec. Similarly, since I'm using the back-to-back ports, I need to add another port and also the BGP protocol there. So since I'll be using only one peer, so let me configure the device group multiplier as 1. So to configure now, let me first configure the IPv4 addresses and the BGP peer address. Let me just configure some address to connect back to back. And in the BGP peer, I need to give this as the duty IP address. Excuse me. So with this basic configuration, now we can start on the BGP FlowSpec configuration. So the first thing we need to do is to enable the capability for BGP FlowSpec. So capabilities are available under BGP peer in this capability tab. So here we need to enable this capability for unicast FlowSpec. I'm enabling it for both the peers. And also in the if you want to see the learned information for FlowSpec, then we need to go to this learned route filters tab, and here I can enable learned route filter for FlowSpec, IPv4 FlowSpec here. So with this, let me go back to the scenario, and here let me just name this for easy reference. So in this router, I'll be configuring the FlowSpec entries. To configure the FlowSpec entries, I need to go to this FlowSpec range tab under BGP peer, and here I will give a count for FlowSpec configuration. Let me start with only one. So as we can see, this new tab, dynamic tab gets added. This is the tab for configuring FlowSpec. So here there are multiple sub tabs in the bottom. The first tab is to give a user-friendly name to this FlowSpec entry, and in the second and the third tab, these are the main places to configure the FlowSpec match components and actions. The advanced tab can be used for configuring some advanced BGP criterias. And the last five tabs, from communities to clusters, this can be used to attach BGP attributes to the FlowSpec update messages. Excuse me. So coming back to the FlowSpec match component tab, here we can see that all the 12 match component fields are present here. So for the first two fields, that is the destination prefix and the source prefix, they need to be enabled by using this checkbox. And for the other rest of the 10 fields, so that if the field is blank, that means that this field is not enabled. So if you configure some value for these fields, only then this gets enabled. So as per our use case, let me just start the configuration for destination prefix. Uh, this is the server IP address 21111, and this is the source 200.111 from where the traffic is coming. And since you want to block the TCP and UDP traffic, we need to give this IP proto match. So if we hover the mouse for any of these columns, over any of these columns, it gives the syntax for these fields. This can be used. As we can see, apart from using simple values, there are some basic uh, inequalities that also can be used here, and comparisons. For example, if I want to give six both TCP and UDP, so TCP protocol number 6 and UDP protocol number 17, I can just use the OR here. For destination port match, for example, if I want to block port number 2000 to 3000, so this can be given like this. So with this basic configuration of a single flow spec, let me just uh, bring up the connections and see the packet captures. Let me enable the capture first. And start the protocols. This will take a few seconds. In the meantime, let me quickly show the actions tab. So the actions tab here, all the FlowSpec actions can be configured. By default, the traffic rate enable traffic rate action is enabled with traffic rate of 0, that is to drop the traffic. The sessions have turned green. Let me open the capture. In the open message, if we see the capabilities, we should see the FlowSpec capabilities being exchanged. So this is the AFI one, and this is the SAFI 133. for unicast IPv4 flow spec. And if we see the update message, so for each of the flow components, we should see entry here. So in the FlowSpec NLRI, we configure destination prefix, source prefix, IP protocol, and destination ports. So for each of these components, we show the detailed parsing and also a summary of the information, like this range for the port numbers here. The action is carried in the extended communities as configured. It is very easy to scale the configuration. Let me just increase the scale a bit here. I'm stopping the protocol and configuring maybe 20 flow spec ranges. We can give a pattern here, and for these cases also we can apply patterns. For example, if I want to change this destination port match, so this will be applied like this. So as you can see, the first value gets incremented while the next one is not. We can also add more here. Maybe we also want to block the port number 6000. So like this, the fields can be created. So let me quickly start the protocols and see how the land info is fetched on the other side on the P router. So to get the land info, we need to go to the BGP peer, and on the right click we'll see all these land info options, and here the BGP IPv4 flow spec land information will give us the land information for that this XCR test port has learned, the BGP flow spec entries it has learned. So next, let me quickly configure traffic. So maybe we can just we can add one traffic range here. This is the destination server. So I'll configure the IP address 2111 here. And on the other side, this is where the traffic is coming from. Two hundred 111. Excuse me. So going to the traffic wizard. So I'm selecting the source from the P side, the 200 IP address, and the traffic is destined for the C site, the 2111 IP address. So here, since we are using UDP, we can add the UDP protocol here. We can add it using this add protocol to frame. If we want to block any particular destination port and want to send traffic for that particular destination port, we can just give the port number and then configure some the traffic frame size or the rate. Can track by the UDP destination port, or we can also track using any other of these fields. Finishing it. So I'm for this demo, I'm not really running the traffic because we are not actually using a real duty here. This is only back-to-back configuration, so the traffic will not get blocked. But user can easily configure end-to-end traffic in this way. Now okay, so this traffic is red because we have not started the protocol now, so the MAC address is not getting resolved. Now I've started it, so I can just regenerate the traffic. So now it can be applied and started. Okay, moving back to the scenario view. Now let me show how to use IPv6 FlowSpec. So before that, I would like to mention that IPv4 FlowSpec can be advertised by IPv6 BGP peers, and similarly IPv6 FlowSpec can also be advertised by IPv4 BGP peer. So we can actually advertise we can actually advertise both IPv4 or IPv6 FlowSpec analyze from either IPv4 or IPv6 BGP peers. Here I am using IPv4 peer to advertise both IPv4 and IPv6 FlowSpec. So going to the BGP peer 2, this is where I've configured the FlowSpec for IPv4. So let me go to the capability, and here I need to enable the IPv6 FlowSpec. Similarly, on the other side also, let me enable it, the capability for IPv6 unicast FlowSpec. In the learned route filters, I need to enable this unicast FlowSpec filter to see the learned information for FlowSpec. Coming back to this one, here I need to go to the FlowSpec range, and here if you can see that this IPv6 FlowSpec range is there where you need to give a count. Let me provide a count of 10. So now on the top we see a new tab getting added for IPv6 FlowSpec. Here the match components, in the match components we can configure the IPv6 destination prefixes. This is the next header for IPv6. This will show only the IPv6 fields as well as the common fields for both IPv4 and IPv6. Flow label is IPv6 specific field. Let me just configure destination port. So with this, let me start the protocols. action is by default configured the traffic rate action as 0, the drop action. So once the protocol comes up, we'll let us go to the other side and fetch the learned information for IPv6 FlowSpec. So here it will display the learned information for IPv6 FlowSpec. So with this, I have come to the end of this demo. Thank you very much for listening.